You're watching this because you already know the secret truth about YouTube. Scripts are everything. Perfect lighting, the best camera, slick editing, none of it matters if your script isn't carefully built. Your videos will struggle to get one click, let alone a million. So how do top creators write scripts that force viewers to stay hooked until the last second? It's not magic. It's a science built on human psychology. And today, I'm giving you the exact 5-step blueprint that turns an average video into a viral hit, maximizing your retention rate across the board. I'm talking about taking your videos from hundreds of views to hundreds of thousands of views, just like the channels I work with. We're going to break down the 5 essential script secrets that make retention graphs look like a flat line across the top, forcing YouTube to push your video to a wider audience. By the end of this, you'll have a clear, simple system to write a killer script in half the time it takes you now. Here's the plan. I'll walk you through the 5 biggest mistakes 99% of creators make, then I'll show you the exact psychological trick to fix each one. And stick around, because the final secret is the ultimate trick to make viewers automatically click on your next video, multiplying your channel's watch time immediately. Let's get started. Secret 1. Reality must beat expectations. Most creators start by writing the script content, thinking that if the information is good, people will watch. This is completely backward. The first step of writing a great script is packaging. Before you write one single line of dialogue, you must decide on your idea, your title, and your thumbnail. Your script is the delivery system for the promise you make in the title and thumbnail. If you don't know the promise, you can't deliver it. Here's the basic psychology behind retention. It's all about expectations versus reality. Your title and thumbnail set the expectation in the viewer's mind. When a viewer clicks, reality is what they see when they start watching. If the reality of the video is better than the expectation set by the title, people stay happy, they keep watching, and you win. If the content is worse than they expected, they click off immediately. Think of it like ordering food at a restaurant. If the menu promises a gourmet burger and you get a masterpiece that exceeds the description, you're thrilled. But if that same burger looks nothing like the photo, you feel cheated and you'll never return. YouTube works exactly the same way. So secret 1 is to ensure that reality beats expectations right away. The first 3 lines of your script must confirm the click. If your title is, "I spent 100 hours inside the pyramids," you must confirm in the first sentence that you are, in fact, in the pyramids. If you don't confirm that click, the viewer feels misled and they drop off instantly. But to make your script killer, you need to over-deliver. If the expectation is, "I spent 100 hours inside the pyramids," the reality should be, "I spent 100 hours inside the pyramids and I got unprecedented access to explore pieces that have never been seen by anyone before." That tiny positive gap, the unprecedented access, blows their mind and hooks them for the rest of the video. So how do you make sure your script confirms and beats expectations? First, look at your title and thumbnail and write down the top 3 questions a viewer will have when they click. These are the burning questions in their mind. For example, if the video is 8 simple editing techniques to make better videos, the questions might be, what are the techniques? Will this work on my channel? Is it really simple? Next, your script must answer those questions in the introduction right after your opening line. This provides context and sets proper expectations for the whole video. Finally, add credibility or extra value to over-deliver. This could be mentioning the hours you spent researching, showing real results from channels you've helped, or perhaps offering a free download. This extra effort makes the viewer feel like they're getting more than they paid for, their time and click, increasing their willingness to stay. This is critical. You need to use incredibly simple language. If your language is complex or uses jargon, you risk confusing the viewer, making them feel like they don't belong, and they'll click off. The best creators in the world use language so simple that even someone completely new to the topic can follow along effortlessly. That's not dumbing down. That's respect for your audience's time and attention. But having a great hook isn't enough. Many creators nail the opening only to watch their retention curve plummet when the main content begins. Why? Because they violate Secret 2. Secret 2. The payout is always at the end. When writing the body of your script, most new creators make a massive mistake. They state the point first, then they explain why it works. For example, tip number 1 is to add graphics to your video. You should add graphics because they boost attention. When you do this, you give the viewer the payout immediately. The viewer has their answer, and their curiosity is satisfied. They think they know everything about graphics, so they skip ahead to the next tip. or worse, they click off completely. The top 1% of scripts do the opposite. They put the payout at the end of the point. You must create tension and curiosity before you give the answer. You need to structure each main point like a mini story that builds up. The structure for maximum retention is story build payout. You start by rehooking the viewer with a statement or a question for that news section. Then you tell a relatable story, use a metaphor, or discuss the context of the problem. This builds the tension. Only after you've built that tension do you reveal the main point, the answer, or the secret tip. Think about it like this. Imagine you're trying to close a business deal. If you only have one deal on the table, you'll convince yourself it's a great deal because you have nothing to compare it to. You artificially make it seem better. That's the mistake. Instead, you need to always have multiple options to choose from. See how that works? I didn't say tip 2, always have multiple options. I used an analogy and a story about a business deal to make you curious and keep you watching, so that the answer, the need for multiple options, is the climax of that section. This is the key. Never satisfy curiosity early. Always force the viewer to watch to the end of the segment to get the answer. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're watching a detective movie. The detective doesn't reveal who the killer is in the first 10 minutes. They spend the entire movie building evidence, creating suspects, and making you guess. Only at the very end do they reveal the truth. That's exactly how your script points should work. But wait, we're still on the first minute, and there are 3 more secrets to cover. If you thought placing the payout at the end was powerful, you haven't seen anything yet. The next secret is the fundamental psychological trick that keeps people glued to Netflix, movies, and now your YouTube channel. Secret 3, never close all the loops. Humans are wired to hate unfulfilled curiosity. Once a question is posed or a story is started, we need to see it resolved. This is called the Zeigarnik effect, and it's the mechanism behind open loops. An open loop is an unanswered question or an unfinished story that you plant in the viewer's mind, forcing them to stick around to get the payoff. Think of how TV shows end on a cliffhanger, so you have to watch the next episode. We're doing a micro version of that within a single video. Secret 3 is to strategically open loops, tease future value, and then close them later. You need a few types of open loops: the early teaser, the big promise. Right after your intro, promise something big coming later in the video. For example, and stay tuned, because in a few minutes, I'm going to share the one editing trick that completely changed my view retention. It's not what you expect. This teaser is a clear reward that the viewer must stick around for. If they leave, they miss the best part. The story suspense. If you tell an anecdote, pause it at the most suspenseful point, switch to your next educational point, and promise to finish the story later. The unfinished narrative will hold the viewer's attention while they process the dry facts. For example, I was at the lowest point of my career, ready to give up, when suddenly I received an email. I'll tell you exactly what it said in just a minute, but first, let's talk about the mistake that got me there. The viewer now has 2 narratives running: the informational content and the story they need to finish. The rehook transition. Use open loops as transitions between your main points. Instead of just saying, now let's move on to point 4, you ask a question that ties the previous point to the next point. You might say, we fixed the problem of having a weak title, but all of that work is wasted if you don't know how to keep people watching every 15 seconds. Well, next, I'm going to show you the psychological trick that prevents drop-off. This creates a knowledge gap. If the viewer liked the first tip, they feel compelled to stay for the next one because you told them the first tip is useless without the second. Crucially, if you open a loop, you must close it. If you don't pay off the big promise, you'll annoy your audience and damage their trust. I've seen creators try to use open loops without closing them, and it backfires spectacularly. The comment section fills with angry viewers who feel manipulated. So when you promise something, deliver it with enthusiasm and make sure it was worth the wait. Now that we have the overall structure and tension figured out, we need to focus on the micro pacing. The difference between a watchable script and a killer script is how often you interrupt the viewer's brain. Secret 4, interrupt the pattern every 20 seconds. Your audience's attention is constantly decaying, like a balloon slowly deflating. If you don't inflate it with a quick puff of air, the viewer will drift off. This air is called a pattern interrupt. It's anything that breaks the expected flow and resets the viewer's attention clock. Secret 4 is to script a pattern interrupt at least every 20 to 30 seconds. A pattern interrupt can be visual, auditory, or tonal. Visual interrupts. You must plan your script with the edit in mind. No single shot should stay on screen for more than 5 to 7 seconds. This doesn't mean you have to move. It means you need to script in a visual change. For instance, after a few sentences of you talking, the script should cue a zoom in for emphasis, a cut to B-roll footage, or a graphic, text appearing on the screen, a different camera angle. These changes jolt the viewer out of autopilot and keep their brains engaged. The reason this works is because our brains are designed to notice change. When something in our environment shifts, our attention naturally snaps to it. It's a survival mechanism. By constantly introducing visual variety, you're hijacking that ancient brain function to keep people locked into your content. Tonal and pace interrupts. Avoid a monotonous drone. Write your script to vary your voice and pace. Plan moments where you slow down for effect. Use a sudden, enthusiastic exclamation. Insert a rhetorical question and pause. Add a quick, self-deprecating joke or analogy. For educational content, humor works because it humanizes you and acts as an unexpected break from serious information. If you sound like a friend excitedly sharing a cool idea, people stay tuned. Interactive interrupts. Momentarily involve the viewer. You can script a quick conversational question like, "Real quick, have you ever experienced this frustration? Let me know." This small moment of direct address re-engages their attention. The power of this secret is not in the content, but in the delivery. You can have gold information, but if the delivery is static, people leave. By scripting these constant changes, your video feels lively, fast-paced, and modern. It feels like content made in 2024, not 2014. We've covered the opening, the pacing, the tension, and the structure. But if you're making an educational video, you need a framework for explaining each point so that the viewer can actually use the information you're giving them. Secret 5. Always use the why, what, how framework. When structuring your points, you can't just tell people what to do. You have to convince them why it matters and then show them how to do it. Secret 5 is to apply the why, what, how framework to every single point in the body of your script. This ensures the content is informational, actionable, and memorable. The why. You must first establish why this tip is important and what the stakes are if the viewer ignores it. Start with the emotional connection. Show the consequences of the current problem. If you can get the viewer to feel the pain, they'll crave the solution. Use proof and evidence. For example, if you're talking about the importance of having great ideas, you might point to successful creators who spend 3 times more energy on ideas than on filming. This proof answers the question, why should I care? You can also use fear of missing out. Show them what they're losing by not implementing your advice. If a simple thumbnail tweak could double their views, they need to know that ignoring it means they're leaving thousands of views on the table every single video. The what. This is the point itself, the core tip, idea, or concept. This part should be clear, concise, and easy to understand. If you use any technical terms or jargon, you must immediately follow it with a simple explanation. Give the viewer a mental model they can remember. If you're explaining retention curves, compare them to a roller coaster. You want to keep the excitement high throughout the ride, not let it drop off after the first hill. The how. This is arguably the most important part for retention. You must give the viewer actionable steps they can use right now. The viewer should walk away from your video having learned how to apply something new. If you told them to list out 100 ideas, you need to tell them exactly how to narrow those down to 10 usable ideas. If you told them to use pattern interrupts, you should tell them where to write the cues in their script. Be specific. Don't say add more B-roll. Say, after every 15 seconds of talking head footage, insert a 3 to 5 second B-roll clip that visually represents what you're saying. That's actionable. That's something they can implement immediately. This framework, why is it important? What is it, and how do I use it, turns abstract advice into practical steps, ensuring your viewer finds the video truly useful and worth watching till the end. You now have the 5 core secrets for writing a killer, high-retention script: packaging first, payout at the end, open loops, constant interrupts, and the why, what, how framework. But there's still one final step, the ending. If you let the energy drop now, you risk everything. The final push, ending on a high note. The most common mistake at the end of a video is letting the pace fizzle out. Viewers remember the peak moments and the end the most. You must stick the landing. First, keep the pace up. Avoid phrases like, "So, yeah, that's it, guys." Instead, maintain the same enthusiastic, fast tone you used throughout the body. Second, give a quick, triumphant recap. Remind the viewer of the value they received. We learned how to confirm the click, use open loops to build tension, and structure our points for maximum payoff. Implement these and watch your channel blow up. This reinforces the idea that their time was well spent. The recap also serves another purpose. It gives the viewer a mental checklist they can refer back to. When they sit down to write their next script, they'll remember these 5 points, and they'll think of your video. That builds loyalty and makes them want to watch more of your content. Third, use the relink hack. The goal is simple. Keep the viewer on YouTube so the algorithm loves you. You want them to click on your next video immediately. You do this using the hook curiosity action framework. Earlier, we talked about Secret 1, starting with your title and thumbnail. Everything we discussed about scripting is useless if you don't have killer packaging. But there's something I didn't tell you at the start of this video. I spent hours researching exactly how top creators choose their titles and design their thumbnails to make sure expectations are high enough to get the click in the first place. Everything we just covered relies completely on that initial click. Now, you know all 5 secrets to writing a killer script, but you have a massive gap in your knowledge: how to get the click. If you want to know the proven formulas for writing titles that trigger click curiosity loops and designing thumbnails that automatically beat viewer expectations, click on this video right here. I break down the exact process for packaging your video for success so you never waste another script again. I'll see you in the next one.